You're enjoying a week off of work in California, hitting up some bougie restaurants with a group of friends. One night, a local recommends a back alley restaurant that may or may not be fully licensed. You and your friends, especially Jimmy, are hesitant at first, but the stranger swears it's the best Japanese food they've ever had. You figure, what's the worst that could happen? You dress up nice and head out for dinner. The restaurant's very clean and well decorated. On the menu, your friend Jimmy notices something unique that they've heard about and have always wanted to try but could never find before: fugu. Before the night is over, however, Jimmy is hospitalized in the ICU with life support keeping him alive. So, how did we get from a shady restaurant to an ICU bed? And no, it isn't just because the chef didn't wash his hands after going to the bathroom. This is Rounds and Returns with ToxBites, and today we'll break down just why this happened and why Jimmy should have gone with the California roll. Let's start with the dish. Fugu is a Japanese specialty made from the meat of pufferfish. This dish has been a delicacy and quite popular in Japan, but has had growing popularity around the world, specifically places with worse chefs. Now, if you've played Minecraft before, you're probably aware that pufferfish have a toxin in them. Unlike Minecraft, it doesn't just make you high, it's actually a deadly poison. The toxin is called tetrodotoxin, and is found in many parts of over 20 species of pufferfish, most notably in the gonads, that's the ovaries and the testes, but also present in rather high quantities in the skin and liver as well. Suffice to say, you, or your chef rather, should be very cautious when preparing this dish. And in case you wondered, you can't just cook the toxin out. The toxin is actually heat stable, and cooking will increase the toxicity. Because of these little factoids, the sale of fugu is very restricted in many places, and typically requires specific training and a license to sell it. Pufferfish aren't the only animal that carries this toxin. Many animals, mainly water-based, that you may have heard are highly dangerous, have this same toxin, including but not limited to the moon snail, the blue-ringed octopus, and ribbon worms. Interestingly enough, it doesn't seem as though the animals themselves make this toxin. Rather, a bacteria, living in a kind of symbiotic relationship, create it. That means that while the animals, quote unquote, allow the bacteria to live in them, the bacteria produce the toxin which builds up in their system, making them not so enticing to potential predators. Pufferfish, and many other animals, have a mutation that makes the area where tetrodotoxin works on other animals totally harmless to them. It cannot bind to its active site, so they're immune. So what does the toxin do exactly? How can some small bacteria produce a molecule that causes issues so large? The toxin acts by binding to something called a sodium channel. Sodium as in salt. One major role these play are in what are called excitable tissues. Now, I realize this may be taken the wrong way and might sound a little dirty, but it actually refers to tissues that can respond to an electric charge. The kind of charge that can be produced by the positive sodium ions moving quickly across a cell membrane. Think muscles and nerves. Now, with the toxin bound to the sodium channel, sodium is blocked and can no longer move between the inside and outside of the cell, meaning that an electric charge can no longer be generated. This means, womp womp, muscles and nerves will no longer function normally. So, back to Jimmy. Immediately after eating, all seems well, but not for long. It takes about 10 minutes for the toxin to be better absorbed and begin causing symptoms. First, a tingling sensation around his mouth. Was it the chapstick he just used? Hard to say. Then, a rush to the bathroom. Nausea and vomiting can be common, as well as belly pain. This all seems par for the course, at least if you go to my local Mexican restaurant. But then more serious symptoms set in. As time goes on and the minutes turn into hours, symptoms like progressive numbness and movement disorder will set in. The numbness around the mouth becomes numbness in the hands and feet as well, causing difficulty walking, as well as the start of weakness and lack of coordination. Finally, there's a valid excuse for Jimmy being so bad at basketball. Now, with a smaller dose, this may be all there is to it. The toxin can be cleared by the kidneys, so as you pee, it will slowly diminish. However, for many, the dose is too large for a quick clearance, and more serious symptoms will set in. The toxin will affect muscles and nerves more completely, causing total paralysis and respiratory failure, as the diaphragm can no longer move, meaning air can no longer be pulled into the lungs. Nerves controlling the heart are also affected, leading to very slow heart rates. This leads to low blood pressures and less blood getting to tissues, mainly the brain, kidneys, and heart, which are very bad and can cause lasting damage to these organs. At this point, most people, without help, will die. If not from being unable to breathe due to diaphragm paralysis, then from various heart rhythms causing lack of adequate blood flow and death. Luckily for Jimmy, symptoms were noted early enough, and he's able to be supported. These supportive care measures come mainly in supporting the lungs and heart. Supporting his lungs while the diaphragm is still paralyzed by using a ventilator, a machine that essentially blows up your lungs like a balloon, a very gentle balloon, to keep your body oxygenated. As for the heart, there are a few options available should issues arise. Some recommend keeping the pressure up via a pressure-supporting medication like norepinephrine, which mainly works by making the vessels in your body tighter or smaller, which will, in turn, increase the pressure. Surprisingly, amphetamine in studies has worked quite well for this effect too, so maybe there's a use for meth after all. There are other medications that can be used for pressure support. One alternative for a very slow heart rate could be atropine, a medication that is used that will speed up the heart rate, though its use may be limited as it still uses nerve signals to pass this along, which are at least partially blocked. A better medication may be dopamine, which, in certain doses, acts on the heart and increases the strength of contraction. So for Jimmy, not all is lost. He will more than likely improve as the toxin will be washed out by the kidneys, and he may be able to return to his baseline status and walk out of the hospital. Symptoms typically last somewhere between 48 and 72 hours. After these 48 to 72 hours, there are no particular long-term effects that have been noted. Issues may occur depending on how much time was spent prior to support, the scariest effect being brain damage from lack of oxygen. That being said, this issue has mainly occurred in and around Japan and some other areas of Asia, though cases have been noted in the USA. As of 2022, only 11 confirmed cases have been noted, all from pufferfish ingestions. So while you may want to avoid sketchy, unlicensed fugu sales, this is not something that should necessarily keep you up at night. That's all for this episode of ToxBites. If you enjoyed this layout and content, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to comment below or email me at roundsandreturns@gmail.com. Thanks again for being here. Love you guys. Bye.